Hello, and thank you for tuning in. I'm David Herring, a nutritionist and the webmaster at the USDA Food and Nutrition Services Center for Nutrition Policy and Promotion. You've probably heard of us. We're the MyPlate and the Dietary Guidelines people. Today, I'm here as part of FNS's Native American Heritage Month Planning Committee, together with my colleague, Janelle Conway, a branch chief at FNS's USDA Foods, Nutrition Services, and Access branch. So before we begin, Janelle, do you want to tell everyone a little bit about FDPIR?
Sure. The Food Distribution Program on Indian Reservations, FDPIR, is administered by 105 tribal organizations and 3 state agencies. It provides USDA foods and nutrition education services to approximately 279 federally recognized tribes across the United States. USDA purchases nutritious, 100% domestic grown and produced USDA foods for eligible households. Each month, participating households receive a food package to help them maintain a nutritionally balanced diet. Participants may select from over 100 products across all food groups, as well as some traditional foods, which you'll see shortly. The foods are then shipped to tribal nations and state agencies that administer FDPIR. For a complete list of foods available for FDPIR, visit the FNS website and search for USDA Foods Available List for FDPIR.
Thank you, Janelle. For the opening of FNS's Native American Heritage Month, which runs all of November, we have a very special guest. Chef Francisco Alegria is a chef in the Menominee Indian Tribe of Wisconsin, and he's going to share with us some of his favorite recipes using indigenous foods. And Chef Fran may look familiar to you as he has developed several cooking videos, which are featured in the sharing gallery of FNS's food distribution program on Indian reservations, also known as FDPIR. And we will include a link to the FDPIR sharing gallery in our email. So Chef Fran, first off, welcome to you and thank you for joining us. And before you start cooking, please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. As you mentioned, I'm here on the Menominee Indian Reservation. We're based out of Wisconsin. I'm here at the Menominee Food Distribution. A little bit about my background. I've been a chef for, I would say, about 18 years or so. I worked in every type of restaurant you could name, everything from fast food to fine dine to Japanese cuisine. Everything you can think of, I was always involved in food in some way, shape, or form. Worked every position from a dishwasher to a porter to saute to head chef, banquet chef. So at the food distribution here, I started here maybe like 3 years ago, I would say. When I moved back home from the city to the reservation to help take care of my folks here. And when I moved back home, I was kind of looking around. I wasn't quite sure what to do. I went from running a restaurant, actually running 2 restaurants. I was a head chef at 2 restaurants, and now I'm back home sitting on my couch. It was very, day and night. I'm used to high volume, and I need to know everything that's going on and being in control of everything that's going on, delegating things to that nature. And here I am on my parents' couch. So I was trying to figure out what I'm going to do, where I'm going to go. And I end up going to this little seed conference. I went to this little local seed conference, like a seed trade, and they had local farmers and people brought their seeds, and there was a seed exchange between people, but it was more also like a potluck. So you bring in a dish, and we made these beans, and our bean pot is like a 100-year-old bean pot from my grandma. She brought these beans along. I wasn't going to go, but I didn't want my mom to carry the bean pot. So I went with my parents just to carry that bean pot. I went to the conference. At that conference, there was a chef there. Her name was Chef Elena Terry. I don't know if you guys know her. She's from the Ho Chunk tribe. So I met her, and that's when I really noticed the movement in the indigenous foods. So I've always cooked indigenous foods growing up. We try to be a lot traditional, right? The way my parents taught us how to grow up. how they raised us, our mindset, everything was traditional. A lot of our foods were traditional as Menominee here in Wisconsin, which I'll go over that when we're going through the demonstration. But I met Elena Terry, Chef Elena Terry, and that's when I discovered this big movement in the indigenous foods. And from there, I just kind of jumped in head first, kind of spear point from our reservation outwards. We live in a very rich area when it comes to forests and plants and medicines. You can see the outline of our reservation from space. That's how thick with vegetation we are. We hold the importance of keeping things the way they are, right? Preserving things, preserving our forests. We also have our burials here. We're one of the few tribes where our original territory pre-colonization is where our reservation is at. So we're really cool in that aspect as well. So from there, I just jumped on in with the indigenous food movement. I started my own indigenous catering business. Long story short, I started here 2-3 years ago at Menominee Food Distribution. So I try to focus on indigenous ingredients. You know, we're not exactly trying to cook like it's 1491, but you know, we're trying to just introduce those more into our everyday meals, right? I mean, at home, I know how many times we eat wild rice? You know, maybe during ceremonies, maybe during events, powwows, things like that. But we're just trying to make that the norm. Maybe wild rice on Wednesdays and Tuesdays, or you know, we're just trying to include those a little more. So that's kind of what I'm doing now, alongside my catering business, which I do very similar to what we're doing today. I do pre-contact meals and fusion meals at the same time. I'm just trying to show the importance of, and it's not only healthy for us as Menominee, but it's healthy for everybody. So whether you're purple or you know, it really don't matter what language you speak, you know, healthy food is good for all of us.
Oh, that's great. Thanks for sharing that. It just shows what, like, something as small as you're carrying a pot to go with your parents to an event sort of changed your life. So that's really nice here. But so tell us about what you're going to be making for us today.
Sure. So today I picked a couple of different items here, 3 items to be exact. One of the items is a bison meatball. You're going to meet other indigenous chefs. We all have our own version of this, which is the beautiful thing, because you can do a lot of substitutions, which is why I picked this one. It doesn't have to be, it's not an exact science. You can substitute, you can minus, you can add, you can make it your own depending on the harvest. I use the majority of what we're using here is food distribution product. So I have some familiar faces, right? I kept some things in the same can you would get in your food distribution box. A lot of these things, I try to showcase them exactly how you would receive them if you're a client on our program. So I picked a bison meatball, which is bison is very lean, but we're going to go over that, how we do substitutions to complement the nice lean ground bison meat that we have here from the Oneida Bison Farm, which is also where we get our beef from. And I picked it's called Banaha. So it's more of like a Choctaw tribe. They make these. There's a variety of versions that are of these. Some people use black beans, different types of vegetables inside of them. I went to this Native American Indigenous Food Conference, and we always barter recipes with other chefs, and this is one of them that I bartered for. So it's another versatile food item where you can go sweet or savory. You know, you can serve it as a dumpling with the soup, or today we're going to make a wajapi, which is a traditional, like a Lakota, it's a reduction. It's a reduction salad, berry reduction, but you know, it's easy to do. So they're all simple things. Don't let the terminology kind of throw you off. They're all easy to do. But the wajapi sauce, very traditional. That's also traditionally it's made with choke cherries or blueberries. You know, here at the food distribution, we have the frozen bag of blueberries. So we're going to use those. I'm going to show how to use cedar. And, you know, cedar, we have here at the Menominee Reservation, we have cedar all over the place. We have pine all over the place. Any type of evergreen will work just fine. But those are the 3 items I picked today. So the bison meatballs, along with a banaha made out of corn, right? And then it's going to be topped with the wajapi sauce. We're going to go a little bit of a sweet savoriness take on those items.
All right, that sounds wonderful. So as a note to the viewers, we've included copies of Chef Fran's recipes in today's email, so hopefully you'll feel encouraged to try these yourself. So Chef Fran, take it away.
Yep, sure thing. So what we're going to start with first is the sauce, the wajapi sauce, because that will be simmering while we're preparing the other two items. So when we do cook, when we read the recipes, I always tell people to read the whole recipe. Don't start following it as you're reading it. Read the whole thing first, then start following it, because eventually you'll get stuck or mistakes will be made. So prevent that. We'll just read recipes over. But we're going to go ahead and get started with the sauce, because that's going to take a while to simmer, right? So we always start with something that's going to take the longest first. Get that out of the way. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to angle you guys down here on my cutting board. Can you guys see my hands good? Good.
Looks great.
So these here are our blueberries at the warehouse, right? They're all IQF, nice little bag of blueberries. I'm just gonna put these in a little saucepan. Your saucepan here, blueberries in here. I'm just gonna hit it with a nice little splash of water. And when we cook, we always make sure we want to use cold water. Get our maple syrup here from our maple camps that we do in the springtime here on the reservation. A little bit of maple. And then this is our cedar. We want to make sure our cedar is green when we pick it. We also want to make sure we wash it, right? Just like we would our vegetables, like our carrots, our celery. We want to make sure it's clean. Want to make sure also we put tobacco down or make an offering when we use these. So we're just going to go ahead and put this on low heat in our stove. So far so good, right? Pretty easy. So that's basically the sauce. Now it's just takes a little patience on waiting for it. Now with the banaha, what it is, it's gonna look like tamales. So they're gonna look like they're they're wrapped just like a tamales would be. So we got our corn husks here. Now these you can find anywhere. If you have nowadays, you know, what's nice is there's a lot of ethnic foods we can find even in our little local grocery stores, whether it be Walmart or some kind of named grocery store in our area. Corn husks are very inexpensive. I probably paid $2 for these and they last me about a year now. I still have a bunch left over, but we want to soak these because they're dried, so they're hard, right? So you want to soak these in water, just make sure they're submerged for about 10 minutes or so. Go ahead, get those soaking. Now, what we're gonna do is we're gonna start building our banaha. And of course, I have some soaked already, right? So you can tell they're more playable, they move around a little better, right? They're not cracking. So what we do is we take our corn husk and we're just gonna peel a strip off of it, like that. And we're gonna peel another strip off of it, like that, okay? We take our small ends, right? And we're gonna tie them together, just like a double knot, like you're tying your shoe. We're gonna double knot these, right? So it kind of elongates it. We're gonna go ahead and we're gonna mimic that. We're gonna tie these together. Again, some people, they add beans or different vegetables. Today, we're gonna add black beans and another food distribution item. So we got 2 of these made, right? So with our filling for this, I have our 1 cup of cornmeal. The cornmeal is also from the food distribution here. And put a little baking powder in there, right? Traditionally, what we would use is ash. ash. So like a hardwood ash, that's what we would traditionally use in here, opposed to the baking powder. You want to make sure this is well incorporated, right? So we take a fork or a whisk, mix these together really well. And then what we want to do is on a stove top, we want to make sure we got some water heating up. So as per recipe, we have 3/4 of a cup of water, but we want to make sure that's hot before we add it to here. Also, what we're going to add to here is our black beans, right? I already have these portioned out in our can, but we're going to wait to add those until we get our water in here. I'm going to check our blueberry sauce to make sure that's on low. All right, so we got our water here. We're gonna add our water. Careful, it's gonna be hot. Mix this together. We're gonna go ahead and add our black beans. It's gonna have kind of like a paste consistency. You're making a dough, right? Basically are. Now what we're gonna do is take one of our corn husks. I like to double these at this point. So take one. And I'll put one on top, just to add a little strength, structure to it. We're gonna put our mix here on the inside, a couple tablespoons. Right, and we're gonna fold it. And then we're gonna fold it up from the bottom. Now when we do that bottom fold, I'm gonna take one of our strings here, right? We're gonna go ahead and double knot this, tie it off on the bottom. And we're gonna do the same to the top, okay? I'm gonna fold this down. Take our string. Tie this off. Right? So we have a little package here, a little banana, and then we're gonna put this in water and bring this to a boil. And we're gonna boil these for about 40 minutes. Want them to harden, to solidify. It's gonna feel kind of like a dumpling when it's finished. So I already have my pot of water boiling there. So we got our banana going, we got our wajapi going, right? Now we're gonna start building our meatballs. So to start our meatballs, we're gonna go ahead and start cutting our vegetables. So what I'm gonna do here is I already have half of them prepared. So we're gonna be going half portions. If the portions are off from the recipe you guys are reading, that's why. So I'm gonna take a carrot. Make sure you wash your product. Also, I have a damp rag underneath my cutting board, keeps it from sliding around, right? Safety first. So I'm gonna cut my hands off my carrot. I'm only gonna use half of it since we're doing half portion. I cut it down the center. So now we have, it's not rounded. We have something where it's gonna hold still, right? I'm gonna cut this way through it. And we want these small because if they're big, right, they're not really gonna fold into the meatball. They're gonna be sticking out. Let's cut slices here. Make sure your fingers are tucked in. What we do here then is we get our juliennes, which is the size of a matchstick. What this size here, it's our julienne, right? A 1/8 by 1/8 by 2 inches. Just run a knife through. My knife tip is never leaving the board. Once we got our juliennes here, you know, at home, if you want to use a cheese grater, you can just grade the carrots in a cheese grater. The idea is we want the pieces really small for the meatballs. And then we're gonna get our small cuts here, right? You can call it a mince. We call these a brunoise in culinary terms, but the idea here is just to get them small. Once again, you can use a cheese grater and just grate them, especially if you're doing these for a big group of people or you have a big family. You know, you don't really want to take all the time to cut all these vegetables. Like, I get it. Right, so we got a carrot. I always use a bench scrape. We have these at our warehouse here. I give these out to clients. I use these all the time. Keeps your cutting board clean. So I got that in our mixing bowl. And then we're just kind of mimic those cuts with the celery, right? We want the same size. So I just cut little strips down my celery. And I run my knife through this way. So there's not only a lot of components that are going into our meatballs here, but there's a lot of nutritional value, right? The more vegetables we add, you know, we have we have cranberries going in there, right? We have a lot of antioxidants in here. Celery goes in. I have our onion. So when I cut my onions, this little piece here, I leave this intact. So I cut the other end off and I leave this end intact. So we cut this end. And then we cut it in half. Right, we're just gonna use half of it. And I take the peeling off. Go as far down as you need with these. There's a film that's going to be on here, which can get kind of dangerous. You know, if you're cutting these, they get kind of slippery. So make sure that film is off at the least. All right, so we got our one end intact. What I do here is I go to the end of my cutting board. I go 80% of the way in with my knife. And I go above it, 80% the way in. So I got 80% of the way in here. Now I'm going to follow that going this way. 80%, 80%. Make sure they're close to each other because we want a nice brunoise, we want a nice small cut out of here. So now that it's stayed intact, so we have our end in, we're going to go this way. So these would be our knife cuts here with the onion. Again, if you're at home, you don't really feel like just run it through a grater. Honestly, just run it through the grater. So that's another nice thing about these meatballs is it doesn't have to be an exact science. You know, there are reasons why we're cutting it small, but if you have it a little bit smaller than what we're doing here, it works just fine. So it's a nice, easy recipe to follow. All right, so we're going to add this to our carrots, onion, celery, right? Call it a mirepoix. So from there, we got our cedar. We have cedar trees right outside the food distribution here. We're just going to pick some of these off, right? We don't want the branch on here. We just want the greens. We're going to take our knife and our cedar. We're just going to rough chop this. We don't want a big piece of cedar in our meatball. Well, you might want one, but the lights go up. So take our cedar. Cedar goes a long way. Goes a long way with the cedar. Craisins. We have our mixed bags of nuts and berries here at the food distribution. Another FDPI product. Just separate those. We're just going to run our knife through. This is called a rough chop, right? Tip down, hand on top of the blade. Just rough chop these. They don't have to be any kind of, they don't have to be the same exact size, but we do want them real small. Those go in. Our hominy, right? Hominy food distribution product here. Same exact thing like the craisins. Just rough chop them nice and small. Once again, if you don't feel like you can throw everything in a blender, just blend everything together. Get all nice and pureed. So this will go into our meatballs. I have a bowl on side of me. Just keep adding things to it. Now, what we're gonna add at the food distribution here, we have our wild rice. It's a soup wild rice, I would call it more so, because some of the pieces are a little bigger, some of the pieces are a little smaller, but that's just fine because for this application here, we're not using an egg for a binder. So this is gonna kind of mimic our egg binder mixed with a little maple syrup. This is gonna really hold things together while it's in the oven because we are working with a nice lean piece of meat, which is what we want, right? But this is gonna help everything kind of marry together, bind together. So our wild rice, normally I would, if you have different type of wild rice and it comes out more fluffy, just hit it in a blender, puree it, just hit it on your cutting board, chop it just like we did just now. This here, it gets a little bit more mushy because the pieces are a little bit different size. So when the big one's finished, the small ones are just slightly overcooked, but that's exactly what we're looking for, is this consistency here, right? So that goes into our meatballs. Yeah. Get my gloves on. I'll show you guys what I'm working with here. So far, this is what we got. Everything we just did, this is what we got in our bowl. A lot of nice colors. Colors mean nutrients, right? So we got our pound of bison here. We're just gonna use a half pound because I already prepared half of it. So just so you're familiar, the exact bison we get, right? People get in their warehouse, in their boxes. Nice lean piece of meat. That's gonna go in our bowl. So once that's in a bowl, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add a little maple syrup for recipe. Now we're gonna add some more aromatics to it. So we got our sage here. Can't find sage. We have what's called number 6 around here. Bee balm would work. Oregano would work. Anything, you know, substitution wise would work for this. We're going to do what's called a chiffonade. So we take the bigger leaf, lay it down. We take a smaller leaf, we lay it on top of the bigger leaf, and we're going to roll it. And then we're just going to run our knife through it. Ribbon cut. You'll hear this called a ribbon cut also. So once we have our chiffonade, that's going in to our mix here. We're gonna add our garlic, right? So I'm gonna cut the end off, right? Cut this little end off here. We're gonna take our knife. We can use our knife or our palm, whichever one. So I usually take my knife blade away from myself and give it a hit. If you wanna use your palm, just put your palm, your other hand on top, push down on it, same thing, right? That kind of loosens the outer layer of it, right? You can peel it, it'll come right off. Also, it brings out a little bit more of the oils, right? So now it's also flat. So we're just gonna run our knife through here. We're gonna mince it up. Rough chop. All right, so we got our garlic. Goes in our bowl. So far, pretty simple, right? We're gonna take our gloves. So this is not like your real traditional Italian meatball. This is a lot different. But you can cook them, you can freeze them, you can use them how you like. So we have all of our ingredients in our bowl here, right? We're gonna do then is just mix everything together. This part here, you know, get your kids together. Get your hands dirty, get some gloves on. But once this is well incorporated together here, we're gonna go ahead and start portioning these out. So I have a sheet pan here. This is a third pan, you know, it doesn't really matter. I always usually lay a parchment down. If you don't have my parchment paper, it's okay. You can just take a little oil, right? I use a neutral oil, usually a canola. When we do our indigenous events, we use the sunflower oil. This is a 2-ounce scoop. The recipe is based off of 2 ounces meatball. If you have a bigger one, the cook time may change, but the meatballs will come out just fine still. Let's make sure I got my scoop full. I pack it down a little bit, right? And I gotta make sure they're all the same size or they're gonna cook different, right? I want all to cook at the same time, equal. I'll go ahead and portion these out. And these are real lean, so they can go right next to each other, no problem, because they're a nice lean piece of meat. Let's get these all scooped out here. Again, you can double this recipe, you know, if you got a little bit bigger family. This would probably feed the total recipe, I would say 3 to 4 people. I would say this would feed here. So if it helps you out, that would, you know, family of 6 or family of 2, right? That was important to know those portion sizes on how to properly feed 5 people opposed to 2 people, because you don't want to be wasting money, right? Food cost is up, everything's up these days, so you want to make sure everything's okay with that. Helps you out. So we're not going to cover these. We're just going to go as is in the oven. Now what we're going to do here, we're going to take our cutting board, right? Because we had raw meat in here. There's a rag that we use. I just use a paper towel under there. That's what we do in culinary school. Got a plate here. So here's some of the banaha that I made. I prepared a little earlier. We'll open one of these up for you also, so you can kind of see how that looks on the inside, right? Here's our meatballs, finished product. A lot of nice profiles in those meatballs. Everything from sweet, right, to savory, to it's gonna taste like the forest, basically. So with the wajapi, what we're gonna do, you can top your meatballs with the wajapi. Also, we're gonna go ahead and open up one of our banaha here, like Christmas morning, right? Go ahead and open these up. You can see this like a dumpling texture, right? Great with soups. See here, like a little present, right? So we're just going to tuck these in. And this one up. Similar to a tamal. These are the tribes did it. This is a good source of protein. The cedar addition is how we got our calcium. All right, so we're just gonna go ahead and top those with Japi sauce. You can top the meatballs also if you'd like. The chef in me has to clean my plate. All right, well, there we are. Pretty simple, right? I mean, what did that take us? Just a few minutes. I know there's a lot of components that go into these meatballs, but it's very simple. Again, you can use a cheese grater. You can throw everything in a blender if you'd like. It just gives you a different, a little more versatility with your ground bison, versatility in the kitchen, especially with a meatball. It's family friendly, everything from kids to adults. Who doesn't like meatballs? Serve it as is, like we're doing here today. Serve it with the sauce. It's really up to you. Serve it in the soup if you'd like. Same thing with these banaha. Very traditional meal. As Menominee, wild rice is really important to us. So we have wild rice in a different perspective, right? We use it as a binder in the meatballs. So we're trying to put versatility into using wild rice also with flours as a thickener, in sauces, as a binder. There's a lot of different ways to use wild rice. If anybody has questions, suggestions, or anything of the sort, please reach out. Menominee Food Distribution, majority here is Menominee Food Distribution product, FDPIR product. And thank you guys very much.
Thank you, Chef Fran. That was really great. I was going to say that I did actually make the blueberry, the wajapi last night because you had sent the recipe. So I have a friend who lives in Minnesota. I asked him, I said, could you send me like a small branch from your cedar tree? I know he has cedar trees in his yard. So I made the wajapi sauce. Let me show you a picture. Here you go.
Oh, yep. There you go. There you
So
go. Yep.
it was sort of a surprise for everyone. So I made it last night. I ate it while it was hot and it was really good. It had sort of like a smoky, woodsy, like you said, it kind of tastes like the woods. And it really did change, it's sort of blueberries and maple syrup. And it gave it like a little bit of a different flavor. So I had it last night when it was hot. I had it this morning when it was cold from the refrigerator. And I'll tell you, they were both really good. So I've actually tried the recipe and I approve of it.
That's great. Yeah, it's a traditional sauce. You can serve it with bread, as any is versatile, just like a jam would be.
Yeah,
basically a reduction.
Yeah, it sort of cooks down a little bit and.
Yep, just reduce it just slightly, and you don't have to use cedar. You can use pine, white pine. You can use a variety of evergreens that you'd like in there.
Yeah, it was great. And I know you work as both a chef and a nutrition educator. So, just sort of something for people who are listening. Like, what's a way that to add flavor to foods without using salt? I noticed you didn't use a lot of salt in your cooking.
Yeah. With the recipe, I do have salt, and I believe the meatballs, but we didn't use it here today because when I help these, it's like an elderly home, so I help prepare some recipes for them, and they're very strict with the sodium and things with their diet. So what I did is I substituted herbs, I substituted spices like paprika or something, even something as simple as like a char flavor. Like if you would grill something or saute something, and with paprika, you get that nice, like when you do blackened fish, you char the seasoning. You don't exactly char the fish, you blacken the seasoning. Those are real good for like salt substitutions because it kind of gives you your taste palette. You're hitting different parts here, like when you're sour, you can feel it up here, right? So you hit that part of the taste palette. Herbs is a good addition. Citrus, fruits, anything that adds to your meal, nutritional wise, like an herb, parsley, cilantro, right? The cedar works.
Well, it looks delicious, and I just want to say that I'm really enticed by the way you use so many different foods from the food package, from the canned black beans to the hominy, even to the fresh produce options that we have and the bison. So it was really wonderful to see that. So my question for you is, what is your favorite traditional food to cook with?
Oh man. I tell you what, so we're with my family, we're very with the harvests. So right now, we're gonna be getting deer meat right now. So right now, that'll be my favorite is deer meat. In the springtime, I love ramps, which is like a wild onion garlic around here. I love ramps. It's a big thing in my family. We go harvest ramps in the spring. In the summer, everything's kind of available in the summer. So it really varies on what the harvest is. Right now, I'm gonna say venison. Fresh venison is my favorite, no matter which cut. I love the neck roast. The heart is really, really good. My favorite, I have a bunch of favorites.
Well, that is quite all right. It's good to see the different ways that the traditional foods can be used. My other question was about the banajas. I noticed that you use the yellow cornmeal. Could you also use the blue cornmeal that we also have in our food package?
Yeah, so here at our distribution, we have the yellow, which is why I chose the yellow. When I do my catering events, I use blue. Color means nutrient, right? More color, the more nutrients. That's what I was taught. I'm a fan of both, but I gotta lean towards the blue. To be honest, I lean towards the blue. But yeah, you can definitely swap them out. You use both for the same application.
Okay, thanks very much. So Chef Fran, we want to thank you so much for cooking for us today and sharing a little bit about your history and the Menominee people. It was wonderful. And any closing words from you?
I just want to thank you guys. It's nice to showcase some of these, especially from our reservation. And I wish I could take you outside and show you even just a view from outside of our building, all the trees and vegetation we have out there, which just makes this meal kind of like that's our grocery store as well. So it's really nice to showcase some of that. So I appreciate you guys reaching out to us and not only showcase our indigenous foods, but our FDPIR foods also, and get a chance to show some of the versatility and maybe inspire somebody's culinary, get them juices going up there. So I appreciate it, you guys. I really do.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. And once again, the Chef Fran's recipes will be included in the email, so you can, you can try out the recipe for yourself. So thanks again to everyone for watching, and thank you, Chef Fran and Janelle as well.
Thank you.
All right, bye, everyone.
Bye.